Hello, excuse me. Hello, good evening. I call this meeting to order at 6:32. Do I do anything else? I don't have the agenda in front of me. We have all of us here. Jack Nicolai, Steve Brown, Dana Powers, Ted Gergen, and Nick Poloni. Administration, we just have lovely Connie with us. Visitors, nobody. May I have a motion on the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, and motion carries. Go ahead.
And the board will go into closed session in the middle school library pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.851C, considering the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Also, we'll talk about non-represented and administrator compensation increases, Wisconsin Statute 19.851E, deliberating or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, and that'll be a discussion of vendor and contractor proposals.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Nick?
Aye.
Ted?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
And myself, aye. We are now in closed session.
minutes.
Correct. Okay, welcome back. We are back from closed session. We'll start the regular meeting in a second here. We just have one motion to take care of.
I move to approve the non-represented and administrator compensation increases as presented.
Is that good? Was that everything? Okay, good. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries. We've adjourned. Okay, I move to adjourn this meeting at 7 o'clock.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and we are out of our special meeting. And now, welcome. I call this regular board meeting to session at 7:01 p.m. We have all of us board members here. We have, which way should I start? Nick Poloni, Ted Gergen, myself, Dana Powers, Steve Brown, and Jack Nicolai. We have nobody absent. We have all of our administrators here. Let me just go down the list. Dr. Valenza, Mr. Guzman, Mrs. Mrachkowski, Mrs. Fitzgerald, and Mr. Sandberg. Visitors. And please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda, please.
I motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries. I do not have anything to present at this time. Mr. Clerk?
Yes, just an update on the election information. And so far to date, as of the filing of, when I got the sheet, one person has taken out candidacy papers for the school board for the spring election, Steve Brown. There will be 2 seats up for election, both 3-year positions, current seats held by Ted Gergen and Steve Brown. Declaration of candidacy papers can be picked up in the district administration office between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. Declaration of candidacy papers must be returned to the district administration office by 5 p.m. on January 4th, 2022. Deadline for incumbents wishing to file notice of non-candidacy is 5 p.m. on December 24th, 2021. And the date of the general election is April 5th, 2022. And if there is a primary, it is on February, hold on, I should know this, but I always forget. It is February 15th.
Super. Any correspondence?
No correspondence, Madam President.
Fantastic. Ted.
All right, I'd like to present the treasurer's report dated November of 2021. General fund cash account with a balance of $414,546.89. Credit cards, $14,807.41. EBC Flex and HRA cash account, $5,836.81. The capital improvement fund, or Fund 46, the balance of $2,082,003.72. Petty cash, $200, and LGIP for $20,014.04. That's a grand asset total for November of 2021 of $2,537,408.87. To move to approve the treasurer's report dated November 2021 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries.
Take a look I'll present the payment of accounts payable bills from 11/23/21 through 12/15/21. This includes checks numbered 70707 through 70722, as well as 202100292 through 202100380. It's a total of checks of $327,895.43.
Any questions?
Not many checks this month.
It's because we had a short time period between the last board meeting and this one, so,
Absolutely.
which means the next one will be bigger.
Oh, awesome.
Ken's supposed to be doing a great job, there's only 3 sheets here.
Right?
Trying to cut down on paper, we're running short.
Spending less money, is that what you mean, Jen?
Cut down on cloud space.
Bigger checks.
I move to approve the payment of accounts payable bills dated 11/23/21 through 12/15/21 as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. You guys get arm wrestle later.
We have a set of minutes from our regular school board meeting, 11/30/2021, as printed and or amended.
I move to approve the minutes of the regular school board meeting 11/30/2021 as printed or amended.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And motion carries.
And then the minutes of special school board meeting, 12/16/2021, as printed and or amended.
A motion to approve the minutes of the special school board meeting dated 12/16/2021 as printed and/or amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And motion carries.
Diane, I assume I'll get a copy of that, which wasn't here. To sign, okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Do we have any submitted comments? Nope. Okay, then we.
I'm sorry, I do have it. I'm sorry.
Then we will move right along.
Okay, so we just recently went through the process of negotiation. We do it a little differently in this district. It would be nice under some circumstances to actually do that before the school year starts so that you're not worried about retro pay or things like that. But for reasons that were discussed at our last board meeting and improving health insurance, the cost of employee health insurance is such a significant part of our budget. It's very difficult to talk about compensation until we know what that amount is. For example, had we had that total 40% increase we may have been looking at, that would have had a significant impact on our overall budget. Some factors going into negotiation. This year there was no revenue limit per pupil increase from the state. That's worrisome. Part of the reason for that was that we did get some fairly significant federal money, which is absolutely true. The concern though with that, 3 years down the road when that money is gone, then that per pupil ceiling will not have kept up with even CPI. So it'll be interesting to see how that's handled, but that is a factor in terms of how we looked at the budget. CPI in July was 1.23%, so very low. But for our employees, it sure doesn't feel like 1.23% because it's increased significantly since then. But the law does have does limit that base wage increase to what CPI is in that January window. We had increased health insurance costs for both the district and our employees. There was a federal funding offset, but just again, a reminder, this is one-time funding. It's not a guarantee going into the future, and that's why we have to be careful about using that kind of funding for things that are ongoing operations. We are this year in our last year of our operational referendum, and that is very significant because any commitments we make long-term to staffing costs, if that referendum fails to pass, that will have a devastating impact on our ability to do our staffing. Tentative agreement was reached at the Personnel Committee meeting on December 16th. Again, this is dependent on both SPEAK and CESP ratifying that agreement and then the board tonight approving. I did get notice from both SPEAK and CESP today that they did approve. They did ratify their end of the agreement, so that going in tonight, the last step would be for the board to do that. What we came to agreement on, and again, this is the agreement of that, it's a tentative agreement, so the board does have the ability to accept or not accept this. We have, the CPI is calculated off what our total expenditures are for SPEAK, so you can see our total expenditures. This is our contracted employees, not our hourly. So total expenditure, $4,744,000. CPI at 1.23 ends up being $58,361. What we came to agreement on was to add $500 to each cell on the matrix for a total cost of $40,500. That is less than the $58,000. However, it does not include, then that $40,000 does not include what the district provides for step and lane increases. That's about $84,400. That's that supplemental amount. And then came to agreement like last year on a longevity stipend of $500. This is for those people that are topped out. So in other words, anybody who can still move on the scale would have gotten, there's a $900 increase between steps, and then adding $500 onto the matrix ends up being $1,400 for the vast majority, or $1,300, sorry, for the vast majority of our staff. However, those that are topped out would get the $500 increase to their cell, but they wouldn't be able to take that step. So that $500 longevity stipend is for that particular group of employees. So again, you can see there's the actual matrix, $500 added into each cell. And so at this point, the supplemental aspect of it would allow all step and lane changes, and then pay a one-time non-precedential stipend of $500 to all staff in lane MA plus 30. If you go back, you can see that where it's not that group that, or I'm sorry, the DD, the 80,100, there's nowhere for them to go once they're there. So that total cost, so you can see the total then at that $7,000 to do that. So what we would ask for would be consideration to two separate motions, consideration to approve teacher contracted base wage increase in the amount of $500 per cell as presented would be the first one.
I move to approve the teacher contracted base wage increase in the amount of $500 per cell as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries.
And the second aspect would be consideration to approve teacher contracted supplemental pay increase as presented. That would be the steps and lanes, and then the $500 stipend.
I move to approve the teacher contracted supplemental pay increase as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries.
So then, just to be clear, I want to pop back and say then the total package increase then for our SPEAK with all of those would be a 2.78% increase.
Which is more than the CPI.
But legally can be done because of the supplemental. So then we get to support staff. What we're recommending is actually a 3.41% increase. But it's a smaller amount of expenditure because that is a smaller group that we have. Also a group that as a whole makes less money. And so what we looked at is the CPI with this group is a very small amount, $14,876. CPI comes to 25 cents per hour for each cell on the matrix. And after quite a bit of discussion, there was an understanding that that 25 cents per hour does not allow them to keep up with inflation, because as I referred to back in July, inflation was at about 1.23. Now it's in that even 4 to 5% range. What is CPI right now?
Yep, 4.5.
And so recognizing that the impact of that is felt much more heavily by our hourly staff. So, but initially, because that is CPI, that's as far under the law as we can go, adding it on to the support staff matrix, so that 25 cents was added on there. Allowing all lane changes, so every 3 years, our staff is able to move over a lane. So you can see a cost of $10,000 there. But we also talked about trying to find another way to compensate that group of employees. And we landed on one of the ways to get around CPI is to pay, for example, a bonus stipend or a retention stipend. And so what we settled on was the idea of a $500 retention stipend for those hourly staff who maintained employment with the district through the last school year, so through the pandemic and into this year. And then it would be prorated for our part-time employees at a cost of $16,000. So again, the total cost of increase for this group would be $41,268. Again, going back, a total 3.41% package. Oh, back here, going the wrong way. So again, 2 motions. One, consideration to approve support staff base wage increase in the amount of 1.23%, which is CPI, as presented, which would be 25 cents per hour.
I move to approve the support staff base wage increase in the amount of 1.23% CPI as presented, which is 25 cents hourly.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries.
And then a second motion for consideration to approve support staff supplemental pay increase as presented. This is the $500 retention bonus, and then moving lanes if they're at that point on the matrix.
Move to approve support staff supplemental pay increase as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Gonna get one.
Good job, guys.
So
Great.
then, in that, there is an ability for the district personnel committee and the different unions to have what you call advise and confer. Technically, under the law, you cannot negotiate these provisions, but there is an ability to have conversations in the district to make some decisions related to the handbook. Just a reminder that the employee handbook is approved by the board and can be changed at any time. So going into this year, it is absolutely within the ability of the district to change that handbook mid-year in the circumstances. So what drove this conversation every year that I've been here and involved in negotiations, and for quite a while, there's been an interest on the part of our employees to go back to some type of a retirement payout for employees. The district provided a retirement provision, but it was discontinued with the 2017-18 school year, mainly because financially it was not sustainable. And many, many districts found themselves in a situation where they were no longer able to cover that, and it was impacting the ability to provide class sizes for students and some of those types of things. The district, but there are some other factors right now I think that are worthy of discussion. One of those is that our district is experiencing a substitute teacher and staff shortage. That is one of the things that we've struggled with. Many staff do not use their granted sick/emergency days, which presently is use or lose. So in other words, if they don't use those days at a certain point, they just lose those days. Staff may build up to 120 leave days, and these are, I want to be clear with the community and everyone, these are earned days that our staff has earned instead of taking off. Although it's not a guarantee, we typically are able to hire a new employee at a lower rate. That's getting harder to do, but in looking at some sort of a retirement benefit, there is that bringing in a new employee at a lower rate so that adding those two together oftentimes results in not a significant increase. What we're proposing is actually giving them what they have earned. So in other words, if we have an employee that's been with us for 15 years and is at least age 55, so in order to be eligible, they would have had to have met those benchmarks, the retiree would receive payments to a district-designated 403B based upon the number of accumulated sick leave days that the staff member has at the time of retirement, defined as the staff member's last day of work. The retiree shall receive their per diem amount based on their most recent contract or notice of assignment for each accumulated sick day. So essentially what this is doing is it's paying them out at their regular rate for the sick leave that they have remaining. It caps it at $40,000, so in other words, it wouldn't, for some of our employees that are on the higher end of the pay scale, they wouldn't be able to go up to that 120 days, so it caps it at 40. The total maximum employer contribution then would be a total of $40,000, but it would be spread over 5 years, and it would go into a 403B. One of the benefits for the district of doing that is that you're then not paying Social Security, you're not paying Wisconsin retirement on those amounts. It's a direct amount payout of their sick leave days. If the amount is between 0 and 8,000, it would be one payment, and then so on all the way up to 4 payments spread out into 5 years. Again, we've looked at our overall budget. We believe that this is sustainable. We believe that it's fair because they are days that our employees have earned. But we also believe it's a nice benefit to provide them because we're not required to do that. It does, though, help us address that issue of incentivizing our staff not to use their sick days, and that there's some benefit to that as it relates to our sub shortage. So the
I'm sorry, go on.
the recommendation would be to approve the staff retirement proposal as presented.
Go ahead.
No, I move to approve the staff retirement proposal as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion or anything? You guys?
No, I just think the key here, these are earned days, earned amount. And I think the 5-year to a 403B is a very smart way of doing it as far as the overall benefits for staff.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries.
And I just want to be clear that this has all been run through legal channels, so it's all, we're able to do that under the strictures that are presented. All right, and then one of the other topics that came up is IEP meetings. So these are meetings for our special education students where our teachers meet with the parents, meet with the IEP team to develop the student's programming or to do an evaluation of the student. And where we've been struggling a little bit is in terms of trying to find substitute teachers to do these during the day is very difficult. And so that ability to hold these meetings during the day has been a little bit of a struggle. Also, some of our parents aren't able to meet during the school day, so they need to meet after school. But our staff has voiced concern about the fact that these are a lot of meetings after school, and they feel that they should be compensated for some of those. The present language that we came up with this last year was that after the 6th school IEP, staff could submit for compensation at $25 an hour. Remembering that any of our IEPs that extend beyond 5 o'clock are already eligible for that. The proposal would change to following the 4th and on the 5th, meaning about 2 per semester, but 4 in a year. So in other words, that 4 in the year would be considered part of their position. But anything over and above the 4th one then at that point would start getting paid out at the $25 per hour if they're here for those. So the recommendation would be to approve the IEP meeting provision change as presented.
Do you roughly know how many we're talking?
Right?
Probably changes all the time.
It's about
Yeah.
100 a year,
Roughly.
Pardon?
about 100 a year, right? Or 10%.
Yeah, we actually have over 200 IEPs a year when you consider it to be review, revise, and evaluations, et cetera. But you figure the typical teacher, we try and have no more than 4 to 5 students in a classroom. We really work on that natural proportion.
Yeah.
So for each individual teacher, for the special education teachers, their caseloads run between 13 and 18. And so I think they bear the bigger brunt of it.
Judy, with that, what about 504 meetings?
That's what I was just gonna bring up.
It doesn't, this language does not cover 504 meetings.
Because essentially it's an IEP to a degree. Well, isn't, but it is.
So you don't have to have, I don't think legally a mainstream teacher for a 504 that.
I think you have to, so you have to hold the whole crew
We
there.
do, because it's
Yeah.
really a plan, and sometimes we include more teachers on those, because when you're working, especially in the middle school, you want to make sure you're involving all of the teachers.
Should we, at least in the future, think about that as a change, in your opinion?
Which one?
Changing,
Oh,
to
adding
add 504.
504 to it?
Yeah.
I mean, they're just as intense as IEPs,
Oh, yeah.
without the write-up,
Yeah.
per se.
Not as intense, but we also do this, we also do accommodation plans.
Right.
And so it's sort of like, where do you start to,
And I just know because one of my sons had one, so
Yeah.
it's a very involved process.
exactly.
Yeah, so,
Well, maybe that's something we can look at in the future.
I feel like it should be included now.
Well, I do too.
Yeah,
but it's
so we
not in
can,
the-
could we add that language into this as well, Connie?
So just so that I'm sure, Judy, because I want to make sure that we've got the right language. If you were to say to approve IEP or 504 meeting, it really would have to be to apply the IEP language to student 504s and then change the language to the numbers, correct?
No, I think I'm hearing just say, teacher attendance at IEP or 504 meetings.
Right, yeah. I think that's what Nick
So-
suggested.
Yeah, correct,
and
that's
it's-
right.
4
it's-
meetings
I'm
regardless.
Saying it's a little bit though, because the recommendation is about changing the
current language.
IEP meeting language. So this is both changing the
Right.
IEP language and it's applying it to the 504. So perhaps the motion could be to approve the IEP meeting, or to approve the IEP meeting language and apply that language to student 504s as presented.
Yeah, I would agree, yeah.
So we're still doing 4 that are included. Should that number remain the same now that we're now including
It should be
504?
probably 2 different motions, right? Because this is about specifically the IEP meeting provision. And then furthermore, you can make a second one saying also approve the same language from the IEP meeting provision to 504.
Right, because obviously an IEP is through IDEA, and 504s are technically through the Department of Justice, right?
Americans with Disabilities Act.
Right. I mean, as far as the legal.
Question I would ask though is, if we're looking at 2 separate motions, does the number apply as a total to both, or does the separate numbers apply separately to both?
That's a good question.
I mean, what we could do is this, I mean, one more, if we put it on next month's agenda, once we got everything kind of squared away too, with the idea that we're all sounding like we're kind of in agreement about it, and then we can make sure specifically that it's handled correctly and have a little bit more data on how often that is as well.
I think Connie brings up a good question, though. Is it cumulative? So, like,
4 per?
IEP,
Or
504, 504, like, do those go together?
Right, right.
Or is it
Or
4 or
separate.
5 IEP, like, The fourth and fifth IEP and then the fourth and fifth 504,
I think it,
like your after school.
Well, typically, Judy, there are more, from what I heard you say a few minutes ago, there would be more staff involvement typically with a 504, right? Depending on how the IEP is written.
Yeah,
For the
especially
student.
at the middle school.
Right.
Oh, Nick, did you make a suggestion that we, if I heard you correctly, that we make this motion and then next month make another motion after a little more study? And
just we can make sure that we have it all right, and then,
I think that's a good idea.
And you
why
can
wouldn't
do
we
it a
table
couple
this
different
then?
ways.
Yeah,
You
we'll
could
table.
approve the
Well, we
language
could prove
on
this still.
IEPs
Yes.
and bring back language for 504s at the
Correct.
next meeting.
Yeah.
Or you could hold the whole thing until the next meeting.
I think we should vote on this and then have the 504 language at the next meeting. That's what I'm suggesting.
What if, I do think there's some conversation about
I
how we
don't think
treat
our ducks are in
those
a
two
row.
meetings.
Right. Is it 4 and 4 or a
Right.
total of 4 going into 5?
right,
I think it would be cleaner to, we got some feedback, you guys talk,
Data.
and we'll vote on it next week, next month.
On
So
the-
then we know
On the 504.
on the whole
Oh, the whole
package.
thing?
Because if we, I don't, yeah,
We're
I don't
all
know
in
that we know
agreement,
that,
like, we wanna address this, but I think if we
Still don't know what the
can
number
bring
is.
it together with clean language about
Okay.
the whole
yep.
concept, it's probably.
because would the IEP meeting provision, maybe are we changing that in the handbook as IEP/504? Like we would change the policy as a whole policy rather
I
than
think
two
that's what they would
separate policies?
determine.
Okay,
That's the question, I think.
Correct.
So
Yeah, I
in other
think
words,
That is,
does the
yeah.
present language then just be IEP/504 and keep the same numbers?
Yeah.
Or is it those numbers for IEPs and then numbers for 504?
Well, maybe the administrative staff can come back with a recommendation. We can look at that at the
Yep.
next meeting.
We are,
I motion to approve, or I motion to table this action item to next month's board meeting.
so moved. Do we need to do? Great, let's do it.
We had a motion on the table already, right?
No,
Did we?
We didn't get that far.
No, we didn't.
Okay.
I just need a
No,
second.
we had a lot of motions, but I don't think we got that one.
We ain't gotten that far.
They're in the clouds still.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Sometimes we jump to the conversation.
I need a second to Nick's motion.
Second.
Super. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and approved, we're tabling.
Judy, thank you for that information too. That's very important.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So as it relates to superintendent search services contract, as you know, you met in the planning meeting. The contract then is between Salem School District and the Wisconsin Association of School Boards for the provision of district administrative search services. Includes board, community, and staff focus groups. Advance approval would be required in this contract prior to exceeding $13,000. So the recommendation would be to approve the contract with WASB not to exceed $13,000 for district administrative search services.
I move to approve the contract with WASB not to exceed $13,000 for the district administrator search services.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and motion carries.
And if that doesn't do it, I think we should reconsider up to the amount, just to make sure you give someone.
Extra special, work extra hard for us. Yeah. Left no,
So just asking to set a couple special board meetings. One would be a facilities referendum board retreat, as you know, and we've been talking about now for quite a while. That end of January date to pass a resolution for a potential referendum is coming fast. So my recommendation would be to set a facilities referendum board retreat, January 13th, a good 2-hour-long meeting to be able to come to some agreement on a resolution there. And then following that up, I know in your conversations with Dan, a desire to have a superintendent search focus group with the board that same evening, starting at 7 o'clock. Both of these would be special board meetings. I would like your thought process on where you want those meetings to be and how open you want those meetings to be. They're open meetings, but there's a difference in an open meeting between having it streamed out for anybody to watch or actually holding the meeting where you have an audience in the meeting. And I guess we've typically done board retreats where they've just been streamed, so they're open meetings, anybody can watch, but the board solely participates in those meetings. So I guess that would be another aspect that the board should decide so that when we post it, we know how to post it.
I have no problem with it being streamed. I think
Yeah.
it provides greater
More
transparency.
clarity, yeah.
I would
Just
agree.
to be
It's fine.
clear, it has to be streamed. Oh, okay. What I'm asking you,
We do it with an audience.
do you want it with a live audience? Or do
Gotcha.
you want it where just the board is able to interact and talk and work on it, and then it's streamed out to the
I like just the board.
Yeah,
For that kind of setting, yeah.
because there's places for input. So I think it might be more productive if we just,
Right. So then you would need to approve setting those meetings, and then you've given me direction as to how to post them also.
Motion to approve setting special board meetings as presented.
so moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries.
We'll let Ryan talk a little bit about this one. He helped us write it up.
Hi, Ryan.
How's it going, everybody?
Very coincidentally, just about a week before, we did hold, under Wisconsin law, we're required, Act 143, to conduct emergency safety drills. So, take it away.
Yeah, so on December 13th through the 15th, we kind of went over our 4 different types of drills that we hold in schools. So we have a medical who call. Obviously, that's for a situation where there might be a medical emergency. Could be something as simple as a student falling off the playground, hitting their head. A hold, again, that might be something for in case if like emergency personnel comes into the building. And again, we just need to keep kids in the classrooms, not that there's any sort of threat, but maybe we just need hallways open so emergency personnel can get through the building.
You're invisible online, you know, just step up here.
No, he's on.
Oh,
Is he on?
Okay,
Okay.
perfect, all right.
very close up to
The third one is obviously our secure hold, whereas where there could be a situation where, again, there could be a threat, but we're kind of determining if it's a substantial threat. Obviously, we take all those threats seriously, but it's kind of looking into that a little bit more. And the fourth one would be obviously an Alice type situation. And then so we ended up in our drill, so we went through all those 3 days, we kind of had conversations, and then we modeled the secure hold on December 15th in classrooms. It was about 5 minutes. And then after that point too, student services members were able to kind of meet with those kids and different things like that. And they had calming activities for those students, which lasted about 5 minutes. So again, those drills are obviously sometimes for parents and obviously staff. They're sometimes concerning, obviously, and different things like that. We are required to do those different drills. But we tried to limit it as much as possible. Staff knew what time it was going to be. Obviously, a letter went out to parents and different things to let them know when that drill was going to be and when it was going to be held. Some kind of areas for future focus we were looking at. We were looking at our door locking system. Obviously, right now, what we have in place right now, maintenance and different things, not all the doors lock where it's like one button and they all lock. Maintenance has to go out throughout the building and make sure all those doors are locked. And then a comprehensive PA system. There's right now a couple places in the building, not classrooms, where if we call a secure hold over a PA system, where if you're in the old part of the building, they might not hear it and things like that. And then obviously continue to look and providing information on substitute staff and non-school staff personnel such as Arbor, Kids Club, any different other maintenance people outside the building. Again, we might call secure hold and things like that, but if they don't know what that means, we gotta make sure we're doing a good job communicating that.
This was held on Wednesday of last week.
Correct.
And then on Friday, there was an actual
And
lockdown.
then we got to practice it, yes.
So how did you see that lockdown, the actual event this past Friday go in terms of having the drill a few days before?
I mean, I think it went really well. How we initially sent that message out, we asked staff to check their email. And because a lot of those classroom teachers already had their students in their rooms, they didn't even know a secure hold was even taking place, particularly in those lower grade levels. They just didn't have any idea. Because again, we didn't even announce over the PA. We just said, staff, check your emails. They looked at their email. They said, it said that there was a key hole due to a potential written threat on a bathroom, and then we continued the day as normal.
So it was obviously very coincidental,
Yes.
but the timing, doing it a few days before was certainly
It was
beneficial.
certainly definitely helpful, absolutely.
I do want to just clarify a couple things because we've been doing a lot of looking at our facilities recently. And so one of the real, I guess, every building has their positives and negatives. One of the negatives of this building is the large number of doors. There are many doors around the building, and you can imagine anytime you have a door, that creates some risk of entry. So as we look at our facilities, what many districts have is a system that would notify somebody in the office if a door has been opened that shouldn't be opened or is being propped. So a lot of your kind of updated modern facilities will have a kind of alarm system on them where if you just simply open up that door and go out, it doesn't do anything. But if you prop that door open for a significant amount of time, like to bring in some people or something like that, then it would send a notice to the office. You'd also be able to at any time check and see, are all your doors secured? And then typically, and again, can be pretty pricey, but can be very helpful in a significant Alice situation where one button can lock every single door in the building. And then another aspect that we probably would look at would be creating kind of segments of the building where if you had a threat in a certain part of the building, you could shut down doors that would prevent people from going in and out of those different sections. So like, let's say you had a threat, for example, in one of the middle school hallways, you could shut down the 4th and 5th grade, you could shut down some of the primary areas and keep that in that area. So definitely as we move forward, looking at some of our facility discussions, safety will definitely be a part of that, and I'm assuming that our parents will be very appreciative of that as well.
I know that was part of Central's too, because they're just, they have a ton of doors too.
So the recommendation would be to approve, again, we're required to do this, to approve the Act 143 report for submission as presented.
I move to approve the Act 143 report for submission as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And motion carries.
Away.
All right, this is the last item on the agenda, so I know everybody's itching to get out of here. So I promise to keep it short.
Really excited for your report.
I've got it on 3 slides, just like the check reports, 3 slides, so hopefully not too long. So with Wisconsin state statutes, every school district is required to have an annual financial audit. And so it's our annual examination of our financial accounts to ensure their accuracy. And I used the word examination on purpose because we're in a school and there are exams here, or maybe we don't call them exams anymore, but it's a way to just kind of see how are you doing? Are you meeting expectations, exceeding expectations? And so we used Sitzberger as our auditor, and they conducted our audit in 3 different parts. The first part was the preliminary audit back on June 17th. So you could kind of view that as like a midterm exam, kind of. It's only through the month of May, but it kind of gives you a sense of how you're doing. And then we did our financial audit, the full financial audit, over 3 days in August 9th through the 11th. And so that's the actual big thing where they do a lot of testing and ask a lot of questions and interview staff about processes and procedures. And then this year we qualified for a single audit because we had over $750,000 in federal revenue. And that was due to our increased participation through our food and breakfast programs, but also through the additional ESSER money that we got. So we will likely have single audits for the next several years with the ESSER funds, but after that runs out, it depends what happens with food service. We might eventually get back to a spot where we don't have these single audit requirements. And that one was done the day before Thanksgiving. So it was no school here, and I was in the building. We did have an upgrade to some of our internet things, so that was one of the. I didn't plan for that, but everything went smoothly, and That was just a few weeks ago. And similar to previous years, the auditors found no significant material weaknesses. However, they noted the same four financial statement findings. The first two are ones that are probably very common and won't go away unless we do some dramatic changes. The first one is the lack of segregation of duties. The only way to correct this finding would be to add additional personnel, but we do our best to monitor our functions and try to prevent the possibility of theft or misappropriation of funds. And that's part of the financial audit in the summer. They ask different questions between the people in the business office to say who handles what parts, and no one person should handle all parts of a process, just to make sure there's multiple eyes looking at things. The second finding was the financial statement preparation. And so we would have to employ an auditor on site if we wanted to avoid this finding, which I don't think we want to, because that would be a significant cost. And so we just will continue to provide oversight. And the other thing is, prior to the audit being officially submitted to DPI, Sitzberger sent it to me and Connie. We review it, make sure it's accurate, ask questions about anything we want. And so we do review those financial statements that the auditors prepare for us prior to accepting them. And then the last two are ones that I hope to not have on here for this current fiscal year. The material audit adjustments. So at the conclusion of our audit in the summer, we had to, the auditors had to make 3 adjusting journal entries, or things that we didn't do ahead of time. One of them was reversing a entry from the prior fiscal year that affected our payroll liability accounts. So there was an entry done in the 2019-2020 fiscal year. And that happened to be the amounts that we were off at the end of this year, so we just had to reverse that out, but it was a significant amount, and so that was one of the adjusting entries that we had to make. Another one.
Excuse me, when that happens, is there any sort of penalty, other than it's listed in a report?
No, there was no penalty. And actually, they said that if the next 2 entries, if we didn't have to make those ones, they probably wouldn't have even put this on as a finding. So that one's cleared up now. The payroll liability accounts are all straight. But then the next one was related to the posting date of our June payment for the WRS, the Wisconsin Retirement System. So we pay those the month following the end of the month. So the June payment actually gets paid in July. And we posted it to the July, which is actually this fiscal year, and it should have been posted to June. And so we've now cleared that up so that we know where to post the WRS payments. And I'm usually keeping track of most of those, but that one happened to be one I slipped through, and they caught it when they were looking at. They were like, "Oh, there was only 11 payments to WRS. Where's the 12th one?" And we paid it. It was just posted in the wrong fiscal year. And then the final entry was making sure our balances in our food service accounts. So people put money into their food service accounts. And what we had in Skyward on the student side didn't match what was on the financial side. So we had to reconcile all those. And so now our Fund 50 food service balances all matched with the financials on the student side and on the financial side. So those are all clear as well, and I've been watching it like a hawk so that at the end of this year, we shouldn't have this entry either. And it also helps that this year we don't have very much food service sales going on because of the free lunch and free breakfast. We do still have some people purchasing a la carte milk, and a couple staff members buying lunch, and so it's very few transactions going on, so those balances, there's not much activity in Fund 50.
I just wanted to say thank you for your diligence. Thank you for watching this. Thank you for taking care of these areas that were not taken care of properly in the past.
My pleasure, and it's my job, so I'm happy to do it.
I have a question. The first 2
Yes.
are due to the size of our school district.
Mm-hmm.
Is that in reference to us as compared to like a large consolidated district in a town?
I would say I think there's probably only like maybe 5 or 8 school districts that don't really have those first two. So we're talking like Milwaukee Public Schools, Kenosha Unified, maybe in Madison, where they actually have like different departments doing each different thing. And then they also employ an auditor, an on-site auditor who prepares their financial statements.
So we're smaller.
We're smaller, yeah.
I've never heard that before. But this school is actually too small for something.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say 98% of all school districts in the state get those two findings, except for the very large
We're in
ones.
good company then.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
And then the final slide, just wanted to say I'm working towards eliminating those final two findings. So if there was a school report card for the audit, I would say we're meeting expectations, and the goal is to get to exceeding expectations. So that is one of my goals for the year. And then the auditors submitted the audited financial statements to DPI last week, Tuesday, December 14th, ahead of the December 15th deadline. It was getting a little closer than I wanted, but I had a lot of questions for them, and just on these finding things, just to make sure I wasn't going to happen again. And then I don't have the physical binded copies yet, but when we do get them in, I'll give a copy to each one of you. And then in the meantime, if you would like the electronic version, I can send that to you as well. And then anybody else who would like to take a look at the audit report can request an electronic copy from the business office, and I'd be happy to provide that.
Is that normally posted on the website, or is it only by request?
I think it should be posted on the website in our business office section. So that's a good reminder. We just got it last week, Tuesday, so I'll make sure it's up there, and it should be a standard thing that's available for anybody to look at. So.
Thank you, Marcus.
Yeah, thank you.
Probably a lot of traffic to that part.
Yeah.
Read the 56-page audit.
Increase your server space.
I think it's 61 pages this year.
Secure hold.
Right? There you go.
Nice.
Bedtime story.
Nice. Yeah, right.
Calming activity.
Oh, gosh.
Right. So committee reports. We have a set of minutes from the 12-13 Building and Grounds Committee, so that would be Nick and Jack. We're at that meeting. We had an opportunity to have a couple people from the community join us at that meeting to just kind of talk about some of the different options, but we really spent some time talking about some of the survey results. We had sent a survey out to our staff, we'd sent a survey out to our families, and we'd sent a survey out to that facilities kind of focus group that had come in and done the tour of the building. And so just kind of went over some of that type of information. I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add to
The
that.
3 parent community members, were they part of the other?
Facility group, yep.
Did they attend the previous committees to talk about? Okay, perfect.
I like the way it's zeroed in, top and bottom, that you had 2 or 3 things that were on everybody's list and 2 or 3 things that weren't on anybody's list, and it really helped sort of even out what I saw to be priorities.
So what we kind of did is we took what the staff priorities were and kind of put those, like their top 5 up against kind of what our parents were looking, not against, but to just see to kind of the parallels, and then what the facility group that had actually gone through and done the tours of the building and that kind of thing were thinking, so, in terms of priorities. Good. And all, again, information leading up to that retreat in January to take a look at what steps we take next. So then the other committee that met was personnel, but the purpose of the personnel committee meeting was to do the negotiations. So you've already seen the results of those negotiations this evening. At this point, I am not requesting any committee meetings, mainly because we've got a lot of meetings in the month of January. But upcoming, you already approved the 2 board meetings coming up, and then the regular school board meeting, remember, moved a little earlier this year, or this next month because of parent conferences. So that will be Tuesday, January 18th in the IMC. Now, actually, it will probably be in here. So,
I move to adjourn the meeting at 7:54.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we are adjourned.